So vibe coding is becoming really popular now. You can use AI to generate all types of applications, including simple web applications that can be leveraged for hackathons. In this video, I'm going to show you an example of how to build an application for a hackathon using the basic fundamentals of software engineering. First thing I'm going to do is create a PRD that you can leverage to understand what application you're building. Next, I will go ahead and define how to build a prompt for the solution that we're going to be using called Bolt that allow you to create the application. And then finally, we'll walk briefly into Bolt and generate the very basics of an application that we can use. So let's get started and we'll go from there. All right. So the very first thing that we're going to do is that we're going to actually create the PRD documentation that we want to use for our application. The PRD is actually going to be the guidelines or the guidance that we're going to leverage for understanding what we're trying to build, why we're building it, what are the roles involved in it, and how do we define exactly how the application should work. So the first thing we're going to do is start with this particular prompt, and I'm going to leverage ChatGPT for building most of this. So this is my foundation that I utilize for typically defining what the application is going to be about. So I have please create a PRD for a SaaS solution. Please create a PRD for a SaaS solution for ... The roles include ... They can do ... right? And so I'm kind of defining what my application is. The next thing I want to do is say, okay, let's generate a corresponding read file, a data model, and a backlog for GitHub. So that way I can connect my application to GitHub. And then finally, it's going to create that one-shot prompt that I can use within Bolt. Sometimes I'll define a script plan, but for now, we're not going to do that because we're just doing a very simple application. So what is the first thing we're going to do? Let's create a PRD for a SaaS solution for this thing through something. So since I'm doing a Christian hackathon next, I'll say create a SaaS application for, let's say, create creating sermons using open AI. All right, let's say, so we're going to make an application for creating sermons using open AI, right? The roles include a pastor, a super admin, and let's put a church administrator. I'll put a church admin. So I have a church admin, a pastor, a church admin, and a super admin. And let's see, so what can they do? So I'm going to change this. Pastor can upload, pastor can, let's say, define the description of a potential sermon. Say he can then submit the concept to open AI for it to create the say long version. Just create the sermon. That's all. I don't want to get too fancy here. It's always a challenge. Let's say the church administrator can have one or more pastors assigned to them, and super admin can have, let's say, will have access to all of the church administrators. There's a dashboard for managing the information. All right, So very simple. You create a potential sermon using AI to generate it, and you describe some description. I'm keeping it very vague because I don't want to go too deep. I'll get deeper once I go into Bolt. So then I'm gonna say, hey, please create a corresponding you know, data model and backlog for GitHub. Create a one-shot prompt. So all this stuff, I'm gonna actually put these two together, and then I'll save doing the one-shot prompt until after we get the basics done. So now what I'm gonna do is go to ChatGPT. Let's do a new chat. Let's ask it to create my information here. Let's close that. All right, so let's go to ChatGPT now, and let's ask it to create this for me. I'm going to hit submit. And so now, as you see, it's creating my GitHub ready package for my SaaS sermon creation platform. That's what it called it. So that's pretty cool. It has a PRD that it's defining, and it gives an overview of what it's going to be about. It empowers my pastors for AI generated sermon creation, a church admin's oversight of the church. So it breaks it all down for me, which is super, super, super cool. All right. And so there you go. So that, I mean, look at this. I got I got my README defined that I can pull into GitHub. I got my env file. I got, I can run it locally. So it's doing everything for me, including my stories, right? I got my epic stories that I can copy. So then it's going to ask me, do you want me to create a GitHub folder structure or starter files on Markdown? So to copy and paste into the repo. So I am going to say yes to that, actually. And then I'm going to create this prompt. So let's say yes, let's have it do all this. Now, usually what I'll do is I'll actually copy all of this and put it somewhere. But for now, I don't think I'm going to do the actual GitHub side of things. I just wanted to show you what you need to do so that way you can create it. So let's go ahead and put yes, and I'll just be able to download this GitHub repo once it's done here. And so my next step is to say, okay, so I'm going to skip some steps and say, hey, I need to now create this application within Bolt. Look at that. It's pretty slick. It has my README and has all of my file structure, my contribution files. This creates everything that you need and lays out, even has my data model and everything together here. I mean, that's what I said. When you want to actually, if you set up this stuff correctly, you'll actually will save a lot of time, right? It's not necessarily going to make it perfect, but it will save you the time in setting up the structure and the bare bones for you to get started. And here comes my SQL and everything. So, and a lot of this stuff, you do have to go through it, make sure it's set up correctly, make sure it's using the right formats, and make sure it's following best practices. There's a lot involved in this, but at least it gives you the fundamentals and the foundations a lot if you know what to ask for. So it's asking me to do some starter code, but I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to ask it for now is to create a one-shot prompt for Bolt. So I'm going to have Bolt actually build all of this out. And so and then we'll see if I'll be able to utilize what Bolt builds. So I'm switching states now. It's going to create a one-shot prompt for Bolt, and it's going to say, okay, this is what you need to ask Bolt. Now, what is it going to say? Build a demo SaaS solution called Sermon AI with 3 roles. Here are the requirements. It lays it out. Authentication. It's fake. It's not going to be real. Pastor dashboard, church dashboard, admin. I mean, it breaks down everything. And so all I'm going to do, I'm scrolling through this. This looks correct. It's telling me to react. I mean, sometimes I don't tell Bolt what to use. I'll allow it to kind of figure it out on its own. But look, it's got the layout there. And it looks, for the most part, correct. So I'm going to copy the code here. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to navigate our way over to Bolt. All right, so now we're within Bolt. Fortunately, I got about 48 million credits. If you're watching this, you probably have access to some of the credits that you'll see in the description below. And this is from Bolt for our hackathon. So I am going to just simply come over to Bolt, and I am going to paste what I copied over there. Right, has all that it gave me, build a demo application. So it's going to try to build it. I am leaving the default for Claude Agent because I'm actually a pro user. I'm going to, it's a little bit slower, but the context management is better. So I'm going with Claude, and I am going to leave everything as is. And let's see what it comes up with. All right. So right now I am utilizing Bolt version 2, and it's actually utilizing Claude for setting this up. And as you see, it's creating a plan for building out a polished Sermon AI demo. It's getting everything set up for me here, and I'm just going to let it do its thing, right? One of the things we can look at while we're waiting is that it actually would create a pretty comprehensive AI for you to look at, or I shouldn't say AI, a comprehensive web UI for you to look at. So that's pretty slick. But I also like to leverage some but I also like to leverage some AI generated visuals. So sometimes I'll go to Canva for that, or other times I'll head over to something called Higgsfield AI. I will leave a description or a link to that in the chat so you can take a look. I actually did a video on Higgsfield earlier, so please go and check that out. But if you want to create some AI generated images, you want to create some even AI generated videos and things of that nature, you can use Higgsfield for that and add those into your solution that you built within Bolt, or you can go to Canva. Canva is another one, but I think Higgsfield gives you a little bit more dynamic images, and you leverage this AI, so you can actually build some moving images. You can do some stuff with Gemini. So it's really cool for doing that type of stuff. So this is going to take a little while here. So we're going to stop this, and we'll just wait for it to be done, and we'll come back to it. So while we're waiting on that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take us back over here, and I just want to show you how you can actually leverage ChatGPT a little bit more. And we're going to create a sprint plan, so that way you can define what your plan is for building your application. Right now we're leveraging Bolt, so we don't necessarily need a plan from that standpoint. It will kind of help you out as far as building out one. If you tell it you're building it out specifically for Bolt, it may help you kind of define how long it's going to take. Let me see what it asks you for. Would you like to use a sample fake sermon generation text so the demo looks more realistic? Then sure. Yes. What is that going to do for me? So it asked me if you want to. I can actually add in a few things. I can add in an API where it can get maybe go to Bible.api or something like that and get some Bible text. And I'm waiting for it to kind of think through how I would do that. This is taking a little while. I think it's because I'm running a little bit much here on my PC. So that's very interesting. Okay, here we go. So this shows perfect that it has some polished text that it can leverage for the Bible. It does an outline of different sermons. And it looks pretty slick. Has some full drafts of those sermons. So it's giving me some guidance on what the sermon should look like within my application, which is excellent. And so you can see here's our sermon outlines. Here's the full drafts of those outlines, which is pretty slick. And some snippets of what the sermon will look like, some realistic placeholders. And look, it gave me some demo JSON that I can add within my Bolt application that can be leveraged, right? And then there's a fake generator function, front end only. So that's pretty slick. So it's actually pretty slick. So the other thing that I'm going to ask it for is to give me a sprint plan. And then this here is one of the things that you should add on to what you're asking for. So that way you can kind of define how long it's going to take, and you can break down different segments for you and your team to utilize for building the application. So here's my sprint. Sprint 1 is my foundation and role-based UI. It kind of breaks down what it looks like. Sprint 2 is my passive journey. Sprint 3 is my admin oversight. So it breaks down everything so that way you have a sprint plan that you can actually pass on to your team and work through how long it's going to take you to do your sprints. So a lot of cool, features. Sometimes I'll ask it to put it inside of one of the tools for managing my sprint, like a Trello or Jira, something like that. But or even ClickUp. I've been using ClickUp for certain things now too. So I can ask it to create those files so that way I can import them right into that and be set up. But I'm not doing that right now because we're experimenting. So I'm not doing that. But as you see here, your sprint plan is pretty straightforward. All right, let's go back to Bolt. How are we looking here? So it looks like it's working. It's working. It's trying to put everything together. It's telling me what it's built. It's showing some of the shared features, some of the functionality of the app, and it looks like it is creating it. And boom, there's my sermon AI application. Now, I told it that it's going to be a fake application, it's not real. So it should just let me sign in without doing much. But there's my three roles: pastor, church admin, super admin. It's a demo mode right now. I'm going to hit sign in. And boom, look at that. Dashboard looks beautiful, right? I got a sermon that I can look at. Look at that. The power of faith is completed. Does this actually give me anything? Huh, interesting. So I don't see a way to view this sermon, which is interesting. So I'll take a look at that in a minute. I can create a sermon, right? And then I can generate an AI version of the sermon. I got my profile. I mean, this thing sets up everything for you. And I know it doesn't have the AI connected to it yet because I haven't added in my OpenAI API, but I can tell it to do that. I can tell it, hey, my open API, I'm going to add an API, and it'll actually look at this, encouraging. I didn't tell it to do any of this stuff. It tells me to do the tone, the target audience, my sermon title, my scripture references, my themes. That's awesome. And then I can go ahead and generate an AI. Now, I don't think this will work because I think that this, well, I don't know. It should not work because I haven't given it an open AI API key, which is one of the things that I recommend. But this shows you right now that you can have a working application pretty easily for your hack, right? And so really you just have to think through, what are you building? Can you tell a story? How are you building I think you should build out a PRD and kind of define what it is. And then with Bolt, one of the cool things about it is that you can connect it directly to GitHub. So you click on the little icon up here at the top right of GitHub. I'm already connected or signed into my GitHub, which is why it just brings up immediately what is the name of your repository. But for you, it's going to ask you to log in, and you can actually publish it as well. You can publish it to online. They use Netlify, and now Bolt has their own hosting where you can publish onto the hosting, which is, again, makes things really easy for you to get started. The last thing, Bolt does have a Stripe reference. So if you want to add a subscription plan to your solution, you can do it immediately. And Bolt's database now, I use Supabase mostly. It looks like Bolt is adding their own database now, which is interesting. I have not played around with their version of the database. I mostly use Supabase, which is connected pretty relatively easy. So anyway, very basic. I just wanted to show you, look how quickly, what did that take? It didn't take that much to have a working version of an application, to be able to talk through what it would look like, my pastor activity, my sermon. It gave me a dashboard. It laid out what it would look like. I can log in, log out. I can have different roles. So that way I can see, look at this. It tells me like, look, I have multiple churches. You see that? So I can tell my story on what it's for. I can actually have something working when they can log in. And this is not even connected to a database. This is just using fake mocked up data. And that's good enough a lot of times for a hackathon to get some insight and to tell a story if you know what you're doing. All right. Anyway, thank you. Very quick video. Just wanted to show you how this worked. I want to show you how you can use your PRD definition document or starter kit to get started with your PRD. B, go with ChatGPT and define exactly what your markup is going to look like, define what your PRD is going to look like, and define your prompt for Bolt. C, once you take that prompt for Bolt that you got from ChatGPT, put it inside of Bolt, run it, and actually build a basic foundations of an application. And then after that, they just publish it, right? Publish it out, put it in GitHub, show how you build something amazing in Hack, right? And a lot of it you can leave on the Bolt side and just have them build it out for you. So very exciting. Hopefully this helps. Let me know any questions, leave some comments in the chat, and I will look forward to exploring some more with you soon. Thanks, bye.